What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Line of the Stars. I'm Jordan, and we're back today with another episode of the DeAgostini Millennium Falcon from Fanhome. I say a million times, but that really is a lot of words to describe what this model is, when really it's just a very large Millennium Falcon. Needless to say, we're plugging right along, and today we're going to be tackling stages 52 and 53 and continuing work on with the frame and the upper panels, and basically creating a little portion of the liftoff section where we can actually look inside the model, and also as well getting our main frame that we've created and get it into the center ring. As I mentioned in the previous episode, because I'm still waiting on decals. As I mentioned in the previous episode, I'm going to be moving on with the build after a certain point, and I'm going to continue to paint the bottom, but we're going to need to do that all at once. And so we're moving forward. And with that being said, it's time to keep moving on to the top of the ship. And so today, we're going to be doing two things. We're going to be creating some more frame sections for the model, and then we're going to be in stage 53 creating basically an inset piece here, as you can see there, for one of our maintenance wells. So we're going to be creating those for the top layer, and we're not going to be painting those because in learning a lot about painting all of these Millennium Falcons that I'm doing is that the studio model, really those maintenance pits weren't like super dark and dirty. I'm going to go ahead and live with the ones on the bottom being what they are because they turned out really good. But we're going to go ahead and paint these with the rest of the model and then weather them as we go through and approach that build from kind of a different approach. So let's go ahead and get on to stage 52 and getting our frame hooked up to the lower, or the upper weapons mount, where we will have our top set of blasters on the model. So let's go ahead and get on stage 52. All right, so let's go ahead and get our package opened here. Find it's easier just to open along from the top of the package these days. And not try to pull everything out at once here. Go ahead and grab our frame section for today. A lot of stuff that we're doing, like normally you'd see a couple of frame sections these days, but in this sense, we're going to be getting it in this way. So here's going to be the turret ring, and also acts as the center support for the entire top half of the model. And we have some greeblies, which we're going to be putting on in the next stage, and that's going to be going into the maintenance well. So that's what those look like. Very cool. Got some screws and some of our pins and magnets, as we are familiar with. We're going to be creating a liftoff section here. So we'll set that off to the side along with our screws. We also have a supply of black button screws here as well. And it's like some of the smaller self-tapping brass screws. So we have quite a few things going on here. And we have our empty package. Okay, so I'm actually going to start at the second half of stage 52, and I want to go ahead and get this portion of the build created because we're going to have to use a little bit of super glue, and I want to let the parts dry before I demonstrate at the end of the stage. So let's go ahead and grab our two panels, and let's go ahead and give them a test fit just to make sure that everything is sitting in there correctly. We don't need to sand anything down, and that does look really good, as you can see there. Once kind of put in place, you won't really know that it's there, and you're going to want to really grab from here when everything goes into place. Okay, so we're going to grab two of our pins, and let's go ahead and grab our little bowl here, a little dish, whatever you want to call it. There we go. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just drop a little bit of CA into each one of these. Just a drop. We don't need much. Just make sure you get around the outside. And you want to act quick once that happens. And we're going to go ahead and grab with a pair of tweezers. I remember actually, it was easier to just use my fingers. Slot that pin right into place, and it should sit down as far as you can go. Go ahead and do the same thing with the other one. Get this one put into place. Fat fingers, tiny places. Not good. Yep. Don't glue yourself to it. It's a really small piece, and I'm sure it'd be really difficult to get off. There we are. Now we got our 2 pins in place. Make sure they're nice push down and flush. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take those 2 magnets and we're going to go ahead and put them in right here and right here. So just grab a little bit of CA. Get it into each one of these wells, and you just need a spot of it. You don't need much. But just remember, these are really strong magnets, so enough to cover the bottom, but don't let it pool up. All right, so what I like to do, just kind of take them, separate them a little bit, set them in place. Just like so. And there we are. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and let this dry for just a moment. And we're going to go ahead and move on to the first part of the stage. Let's go ahead and get our frame piece out of here. That was a weird way of cutting that, Jordan. Sure. And there we are. And that's what that frame piece looks like. Perfect. All right. So now I know we're going to need some of our button screws here. Let's go ahead and get them into a package. I already have a bowl out. Don't need to grab a second one, Jordan. Dump a bunch of these out because, well, it's just how they do it. I found out that they give us enough for a couple of stages at a time, which actually makes a lot of sense. I've kind of made that supposition, but it's actually how it turns out to be. Okay, so now let's go ahead and bring back our frame section here, and we're going to go ahead and turn it over. And as you recall from the previous episode where we finished up, we went ahead and got our radial stiffening rib. Gross. We got this put in place, and this frame section is going to actually slot in something like, well, let's go ahead and follow the instructions, shall we? So let's go ahead and set this down. And it is going to fit in just like this. And we are going to go ahead and grab just one of our black button screws, put them down here, grab our screwdriver, get one started. We can set that down now. Now let's get the other 2 screws put in place. And there we are. Very nice. That one needs a little bit of help getting in. Kind of went in at a bit of an angle, so I'm going to go ahead and back this one off. And go ahead and get back in place here. There we go. That's better. All right. So that is what that looks like. Excellent. Now what we're going to do, we're just going to go ahead and slot this in place. We want to make sure that these all line up properly. We're going to start right there. There's a notch in this ring. And that is going to sit in with the notch right there. So it's going in at a specific place. I appreciate that. So let's go ahead and grab a couple of our black screws here. Oop. Of course. So make sure that's seated in there properly. There we go. And once the center ring gets screwed into place, I've noticed that the model itself gets a little stronger. We're going to go ahead and hit. I'm going a little far ahead. I'm assuming, let's go ahead and check. Yep, so we're going to hit all of our screw points. So we're going to go 1, 2, and then obviously the first 2 there, and then every single one of these screws along the way down. A bunch of it onto our table. All right, we got our last screw going into place. And there we are. And once that's in place, this is now a nice rigid piece, and it is definitely starting to take on a little bit of heft and bulk. Man, it is so cool seeing this one to go together so quick. So, I think that goes ahead and takes care of this portion of the build. Let's go ahead and test now that our CA has had a chance to dry. Let's go ahead and see how this works. And it works just fine. It's not super strong of a connection, which is exactly what you're looking for. You're not wanting to try to pry this off. But there we are. It stays in place. We'll be able to access this. And so basically, it's just going to be going into one of the recessed areas, so you'll be able to take a look inside the corridor and lift it off very easily. So there's that. And that is the end of stage 52. Let's go ahead and move on to stage 53. All right, so here is stage 53. Let's go ahead and get it opened up. We have a piece of our assembly jig here, so I'm going to go ahead and just pull this thing all the way open. And as a reminder, label these as you get them out. We are going to need to actually assemble. I think this is going to be either in this later in this episode or in the next. We have our frame section here. Bunch of Greeblies and Todd. I think this is how they're supposed to be. So he mentioned when he got to this stage in the build, Marble Phoenix, his sprue is nice and bent. And I actually think, based on the fact that mine is bent the same way, it's supposed to be that way. So these are plant-on details that go on much, much later on in the build. Like we're talking the very last stage. So we're going to go ahead and set these off to the side. And then we have more of our Greeblies here. And these are going to be for this, which is very cool. And that's going to be one of our maintenance wells. So let's go ahead and make sure we have everything out. There we go. And we also have some of our 2-hole connectors there as well. Set that off to the side. And let's go ahead and start by bringing our frame section back. And where we're going to start, well, let's start by getting everything out of our package here. Got our 2 frame sections. They're kind of mashed together, so be careful. Okay. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a 2-hole connector here and then a 4-hole connector right there. So inside this package that we got with this stage, we have a couple of 2 holes and a 4-hole connector. Let's go ahead and get these out. Let's drop them right on the table. Getting a little bit more comfortable these days with doing that. And that one's actually behind a seam, which is interesting. There we are. So, get that out of the way. Get my blade out of the way so I don't stab myself. Go ahead and grab a couple of our button screws. Get it into our connector. Line it up. And get it into place. Do the same thing here with the 4-hole, but we're going to do that with 2 screws. We'll start with 1. And I will start with this one right here. I'll grab another screw. Tie them both up, and we are set. So now we're going to grab TF17, which is going to be this one here. And we are going to screw a 2-hole connector right to this corner. All right, that one's put into place. Now, what we're going to do is these 2 frame pieces fit together just like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to screw that one in. Set that right on top. Grab one of our screws. That connected and get both tightened up. Excellent. Then what we're going to do is we are going to assemble this just like that. So we're going to go ahead and get this into the 4-hole connector down below, the 2-hole connector up top. There we go. And into the 4-hole. And there we are. And that's what that looks like all assembled up. This is a good portion of the frame all put together, which is really nice. So now what we're going to go ahead and do is just set this off to the side, and it wants us to put together the assembly jig. I'm not too worried about it right now. I will do that probably at the end of the next episode when it becomes just a little bit more needy of a thing to do, and I'll need to bust out my second U-Haul box to do so. So let's go ahead and set this off to the side. That's going to be the frame for this episode today. Let's go ahead and get that off the side. And now what we're going to do, oh, it's interesting. This sprue here that we got in the previous stage, looks like it's just more plant-on details for later on. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab this piece, which is going to be one of our maintenance pits, and then we have our sprue. So it's going to be one, well, let's just go ahead and get started. Let's just go ahead and start with grabbing our single-bladed nippers. I am also going to go ahead and get some of our CA down into one of the wells of my Enterprise D die-cast piece. If you're building this model, you know what I'm talking about. But it's great for CA application. Get that off to the side. Get my applicator, which is just a pin vise. Get this cleaned up. There we are. And let's grab something to sand. And in this case, I'm going to be using my eraser file. These are great for doing these models. So let's go ahead and start with part number 1, which is going to be the biggest piece. Let's go ahead and get this separated off. And I'm using single-bladed nippers for this. There we are. Let's go ahead and get our parts cleaned up. Now, that one is going to be set into place. Let's go ahead and turn it the way they want us to turn it. Is that right? Yes, it is. We're going to go ahead and set that in place. You got 2 mounting lugs here. You got 2 mounting points there. That's going to sit in place. Let's go ahead and test fit. That's how that goes. So what we're going to do, we're going to grab some of our glue, and we're just going to go around the outside of our mounting pins. You don't want to go too crazy with the glue. So after a couple minutes of it not wanting to stick, I'm going to run some glue here as well. Just a little bit along the edge. Just to ensure that we're getting some stuck. I'm going crazy. Just enough. And there we are. That should stick nice. All right. While that's happening, let's go ahead and move on to the next piece here. Let's go ahead and grab part number 2. And that is going to be this piece right here, which is likely a part to a tank. Separate it off the sprue, and we'll get it cleaned up. All right. And that one is going to fit into place. We have 2 mounting lugs right here. That is going to fit into place right here on these 2 mounting lugs. So it looks like it's going to fit in just like that. Okay. So as a lesson learned from the last time, I'm going to put some glue on the bottom here as well, in addition to the mounting lugs. I'm going to get that put in place. Excellent. Oh, other way, quickly before it dries. Is that? Wow. Oh, God. And there we are. I did have to fix this piece right in the middle. I realized that I set that in upside down, so I went ahead and took care of that. Quickly was able to pull it off and just switch it around before the glue dried. Excellent. And that's what that looks like. Let's go and get on to part number 3. So part number 3 is going to be a smaller piece here, and we're going to find that one located right here. Looks like a starter or something similar. And that one is going to mount into the 2 lugs just to the right down there. Nice. So to do that, I'm just going to quickly put a drop of glue into there. And then I'm going to need to use my tweezers to put this in place. And we're going to make sure that this is facing the right direction. Excellent. So you want the flat part sticking to the top here. All right. That is set into place. Let's go ahead and grab part number 4, which is going to be down here on the bottom. And then get our parts cleaned up. Nice. Okay, don't need to sand that. Part number 4 is going to go into place just to the left over here in the 2 lugs that are right there. So just a little bit of CAO on the bottom. On the flat spot, just to make sure it sits nice. And then on the mounting lugs. And we're going to be putting this end towards the inside there. Just like so. Very nice. Let's grab part number 5. Which is going to be this one right here with a half moon shape on it. Get her sanded up. And then 5 is going to sit in with the half moon facing down this way, and each one of these 2 mounting lugs right there. So, same thing on the flat part, and then on the lugs. And and right into place. I'm going to hold that one for just a second, and I will be right back. And there we are. And that's what that looks like from the side. Make sure that's pushed down there. Excellent. There we go. So now let's go ahead and grab part number 6, which is going to be this piece right here. So I'm going to have to kind of flip back and forth. There we are. Let's go ahead and get our part cleaned up. And there we go. And that's what that part looks like. And that one is going to sit flat. Let's look at the instructions here. It's going to sit in these 2 tubes, or not tubes, but lug mounting points. And that one is going to fit in with the 2 dots facing up. So, with this one, I'm just going to go ahead and grab my applicator. And just get a little bit of seal on the back. Not going too crazy. Mostly on the mounting lugs, but just enough. Set that one into place, just like so. And that's what that looks like. Very cool. Let's grab part number 7, which is going to be the one up here at the top left. And there we go. And that one is going to fit into place right up here into those 2 lug holes. So let's go ahead and get this one glued up in the same way. A little bit quicker to get it applied this way. Getting along. And just a little bit of glue. And then this side is going to be facing in. Just like so. Okay, let's grab part number 8. I think it's going to be this one. Let's find out. It is. Power deduction. All right, so that one is going to fit in on these 2 mounting lugs right here on the part that we just put in place a couple minutes ago. And we have 2 mounting lugs right there. So applicator is nice because you're able to just kind of precision put it where you want it. And if I'm not trying to be too precise, we can just use it directly out of the bottle. Excellent. So in this case, I am going to grab my tweezers. And with this little loop facing down towards the bottom, you can see there at the bottom. We're going to go ahead and put that facing down. Set that into place. Excellent. So there we are. Excellent. All right. Let's grab part number 9, which is going to be this one. I'm assuming. I want to make sure. Yes. Did a lot of assuming early in this model, and I kind of paid the price in some points. Thankfully, I've learned a few things since starting this thing. All right. So now, that one... I see. So this one is going to fit in. There's a little ridge. It'll be hard to kind of pick out. But right there, there's going to be like a little ridge. There you go. So you see right there, that's where that's going to mount up to right here. So it's going to fit in just like that. Let me get my CA on that spot. So in this case, I am going to use my applicator. Make sure I get enough to secure this in place. And use my tweezers to start. And what I'm going to do is while that's sitting there, I'm going to put a little bit back behind. because this is sitting flush up against the back wall of this. I want to go ahead and stick that just a little bit. And that's what that looks like right there. Very cool. Now we're going to grab part number 10. Which is going to be this round one here. And it looks like the end of that's right there. Be careful when cutting that one. You don't want to cut it down too far. That one turned out that was a clean cut. Clean cut on both sides. That one is going to fit into place right here in that mounting lug, and then the top of the post right here is going to fit in right there. So I'm going to grab a little bit of my CA here. Get into that spot. And feeling like I need to use a little bit here extra just in case. Slot that in. Then get that one in. And there you go. That looks really cool. All right, we're going to grab number 11, which is this piece with a little clamp end on it. And that one has a mounting lug on the bottom that I need to sand off. I was like, where did I clip that off of at? There we go. And that's going to mount in place right here. Bring it up to the camera. Right there. So I'm just going to drop some CA in there. And I'm going to use my tweezers for this one. There we are. Excellent. That looks great. Let's grab part number 12, which is, I'm assuming, a tank tart. Tank part. That's funny. A long Saturday of recording, let me tell you. All right, excellent. Now, that one is going to slot in. So there's a tiny mounting lug in the very end of that post there. You see that tiny little slot right there? That's where that goes. So I'm going to put a good spot of glue there. Use my tweed. Well, no, I'm going to use my hand here because I want to feel it. It's going to have to stand up on its own. But I want to force the issue. So I'm going to get it set in place and then walk away. As Ron Popeil says, set it and forget it. That's what that looks like put into place. Very cool. And we just have a couple more pieces to put into place. We're going to grab part number 13, which is going to be this tiny one. Let's get it sanded up. And then this one with its triangular lug on the back is going to fit in right there. And that is going to be with the smaller circle facing down. Okay. So, just going to grab my glue here. And my tweezers. There we go. Very cool. We're going to have part number 14. There's that. And then this one is going to sit, so right here and right here. Hard to pick up, but there's two little flat spots, and this is where that's going to mount in place. So I am going to glue the bottom of this because that's where it's going to sit into place. Push that down. There we go. And that's what that looks like. And then finally, we're going to grab 15, our last piece for the day. It's going to be this long tube piece here. That's what that looks like. It's always nice to finish off a sprue. And this one is going to fit in right here into the end, slot in just across, just like that. I'm a little nervous about this glue point, so I'm going to go ahead and drop a little bit more CA along the bottom. There we go. Drop a spot of CA right there. Put into place. And then right where it mounts up, I'm just going to go ahead and run the end of my applicator right there as a way of holding it in place. And there it is. So there is one of our maintenance wells completed. I'm not sure when we're going to be doing another one. I'm assuming soon, because as we tend to, I've noticed at this portion of the build, we are repeating steps a little closer together. So that, my friends, is stages 52 and 53, which comprise the first part of pack number 13 for the Millennium Falcon. And we're going to be moving on to stages, 54 and 55 for the next one. And with that stage, we're going to be doing some pretty cool work in creating the battery box and talking about how we're going to be approaching power for this model going forward. So that's what I got for you today, and I just want to say thank you. I know that there was a million things y'all could have done today. Instead, you spent a couple minutes with me watching me build a model, and I think that's pretty damn cool. If you guys have any questions or comments, tips, tricks, please leave them down below. Like to support the channel, please like and subscribe. And my friends, until we see each other again, I hope you all have a wonderful day in this beautiful world where we happen to be. And just remember, my friends, that this is the way.